For this video, we'll be doing section 4-2, looking at exponents. Within looking at exponents, we have to use the order of operations. Okay, so we're going to go through first what the order of operations is. So to start, we're going to remember PEMDAS. You should have seen this at some point before now. It's just an easier way to remember it than the way they have written on this side. So we're going to fill in both, but this one will help you to remember it as well. So the first thing that they have is work inside grouping symbols, which means parentheses or brackets or anything like that. So this first P is also parentheses. Then the second step is to simplify any terms with exponents. So that E on this side is exponents. Then the next step, you're going to multiply and divide. Multiply and divide in order from left to right. So within the problem, you're going to start on the left side of the problem, and if there's multiplying or dividing, you would do that first before you found multiplying or dividing on the right side of the problem. This will make sense as we move through some of the examples. The last step is to add and subtract in order from left to right again. Okay, so you're always starting on the left and working to the right of the problem. Exponents, we've seen some of those, but exponents, to remind us, are used to show repeated multiplication. So, for example, 2 to the 4th is really 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so it shows repeated multiplication. It's written as a power that has two parts. It has a base and it has an exponent. So for the example, they have 2 to the 6th. The 2 is the base. The 6 is the exponent. And the whole thing, 2 to the 6th power, or 2 to the 6th, is called a power. So again, the 2 is the base. It's bigger. The exponent is smaller and up to the right. So it's the 6. The whole thing, 2 to the 6th, is called a power. So when we're going to multiply this out, we use the base as a factor 6 times. So since it's 2 to the 6th, we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equals 64. Okay, so 2 to the 6th power equals 64. So on our homework, some of this we're going to be taking things that are written out as many numbers being multiplied, and we're going to write them with exponents. Or we're going to go the other way where we're given something with exponents and we have to write it the other way and do the math. Or we're going to do some problems where you have to use PEMDAS and solve all the way down to the bottom. All right, so using exponents, we're going to write these using exponents instead of having negative 11 times negative 11 times negative 11 times negative 11. When it's in parentheses, it's really important to include parentheses in your power answer as well. Okay, so you have to have the negative sign within the parentheses because that's what they have. So we're going to say our base is negative 11 in parentheses. And how many times does that happen? 1, 2, 3, 4. So then our power, or our exponent would be 4. So we have negative 11 to the 4th power. Sometimes we're going to get them where they're written and you have x's here, and then you also have y's kind of mixed in. So before you do anything, the first step you're going to do is you're going to rewrite it using the commutative and associative properties, which remember, those just mean like things together. So we're going to sort this so that we have all of our x's in a row and then all of our y's in a row. The reason that we do that is because then it's easier to make sure that you're counting correctly when you're figuring out what your exponent is going to be. So to start, we put our number in the front, so we have -5. Then we have x to the power of 3. Okay, it has an exponent of 3 because there's 3 of them. And then y to the 2 because there's 2 of them. Notice there are no dots showing the multiplication in the answer. So when you're doing the work up here and you're showing how you reordered it, you're going to put those dots between to show that they're being multiplied. But in your final answer, when you write it, you don't need to put the dots because a number next to a letter means they're multiplying. Letter next to a letter means they're multiplying. So it's just implied. So there's no dots in your final answer. All right, when you're ready, flip your paper over. We're going to start on the back side. So this says, suppose a certain star is 10 to the 4th light years from Earth. How many light years is that? So this is where we're given a power, so a base with an exponent, and we need to multiply it out to figure out what the answer is. So the exponent indicates that the base 10 is going to be a factor 4 times because it's 10 to the 4th is what they have here. That means we can rewrite that as 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Okay, then we're going to do the math. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is going to get us 10,000 light years. So 10 to the 4th is 10,000 light years. All right, this next problem is one where we're going to use PEMDAS. Okay, so I'm just going to write it over here to remind us of our order. So first things first, we have something in parentheses. We have 1 plus 4 inside these parentheses. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add those together. So 1 plus 4 is 5. So we're going to put 5 on the inside. Then the next step, going down our list, we have exponents. Well, we have 5 to the 3rd, right? So we're going to take 5 to the 3rd and we're going to do off to the side 5 times 5 times 5. And hopefully we're going to get 125. So we still have our 3, just came down. Now we put a multiplying dot between them because we no longer have our parentheses. So 3 times 125 is what we're left with next. Then the final step is just doing that multiplication, right? Because that's the next thing on our list, and that's all we have left. So 3 times 125 is just going to be 375. And that's our final answer. When it says simplify 5 to the 3rd, they mean like do the math. Multiply it out and figure out what that means. That's what they mean when they say simplify. All right, so we've got another example here. 7, and then in parentheses we have w plus 3, all to the power of 3, plus z. What are we going to do with that? Okay, well, first of all, it says to replace w with -5. So they rewrote it, and right here where they have a w, they also have an empty box, so we're going to put a -5. Then they said to replace z with 6. So right here where they have a z, they also have an empty box, so we're going to put 6. Okay, so now we have 7 on the outside of the parentheses, -5 plus 3 inside it, all to the 3rd power, plus 6. So we can use our PEMDAS to help us solve this. Step 1, using those parentheses, right? We need to do what's inside them. -5 plus 3 is going to get us -2. We still have +6 over here. We still have the 7 in the front and the 3 as our exponent. Now, the next step we're going to do is we're going to do that exponent, right? So we have -2 to the third power. -2 is in parentheses, so we have to make sure when we multiply it out, we write it in parentheses. -2 times -2 times -2. The first -2 times -2 is going to give us a +4, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive. Then we have times -2. 4 times -2 is going to get us a -8. So in here, we're going to put -8. And we still write our +6 after that because we haven't done that yet. Next step is multiplying. So we have 7 times -8, which gets us -56. Right? And we still have our +6. -56 plus 6 is going to get us -50. All right. Now we're going to move down to the quick check. So I'm going to do the first one for number 1 with us, and then we'll pause the video and you guys can work on B and C, and then I'll go over them. So this says write using exponents. So all you need to do right here is you're going to be writing with your base as the big number and then your exponent as the small number. So the base on here is 6. How many times does 6 times 6 times 6 happen? Is 3. So you're going to put a small exponent of 3 up and to the right. Okay. So you're going to pause the video here, remembering that when you have things that are out of order, just like on the other side of the page, step 1 was to put them in order. Then step 2 was to do something like this. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and do those. All right, so let's see if we did them right. So we have 4, and I'm going to use that commutative and associative property where I put things that are alike together. So I'm going to have 4 times x times y times y. You could also have 4 times y times x, as long as your x is next to itself and the 2 y's are next to each other. Okay, then the last step is to put those into exponent form. So I would have 4x y to the 2. Remembering that in our answer, we don't have dots between them. Okay, you could also have 4y to the 2x. Either one of those answers is correct. For this last one, we have -3 in parentheses, and then that happens 4 times, so we're just going to put it to a power or an exponent of 4, and then we're good. All right. So you're going to pause the video right here, and you're going to do simplify 6 to the 2. Remember that simplify means do the math. So how would I break down 6 to the 2 and write it like something like this? And then what would my answer be? So pause your video and try that. Okay, so hopefully what you wrote is 6 times 6 because it was 6 to the 2, meaning that that happens twice. And then your final answer was 36. All right, we're going to do B together. So I want to talk about the difference here. So it says to evaluate -a to the 4th power and -a in parentheses to the 4th power where a equals 2. So we're going to rewrite those first. The first one we're going to rewrite as negative on the outside, 2 to the 4th power. All I did was change the a to be a 2. Then for the other side, we have -2 inside parentheses to the 4th power, and that's going to be for each of these. All right. The negative inside the parentheses versus outside the parentheses is very important when you're doing exponents. When the negative is on the outside, it kind of just hangs out in the front of the problem and then gets used for the answer. What do I mean by that? This would be -2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? In my head, I can just do the math of this. 2 times 2 is 4. times another 2 is 8, times another 2 is 16. And I have that negative in the front that just comes down, so my answer is going to be negative 16. If you have a problem where the negative is hanging out in the front before the power, then you're going to have a negative answer. If the negative 2 is inside the parentheses, I would rewrite this as negative 2 times negative 2. All of these are in parentheses times negative 2. Now, when I do that, negative 2 times negative 2, this is going to get me a positive 4 times negative 2. Here, I'll just rewrite them down here. So then I still have negative 2 and negative 2. 4 times negative 2, these two together is going to get me a negative 8 times negative 2 is going to get me a positive 16. So a trick for this is if you have an even exponent when you have parentheses with a negative, you're going to get a positive answer. If you have an odd, you're going to get a negative answer. But if you multiply it out correctly, no matter what, if you remember the trick or not, you'll get the right type of answer. But the main thing to notice is that when the parentheses are not there, the negative is just in the front and appears in the answer. When the parentheses are there, it happens each time within that multiplying out process. All right, so let's do A together and then you'll do B on your own. So we have 2, I'm just going to rewrite it. 2 times 5 to the 2 plus 4 times, in parentheses, a negative 3 to the 3. All right, we got to write our PEMDAS so we remember. So first thing was parentheses. Well, there's not really anything happening in the parentheses other than like the negative 3 is in there, but we can kind of just leave that, right, as it is for right now because it's not something, an action that needs to be done. There's no adding or subtracting or multiplying within the parentheses. It needs to be done. Our next one is exponents. Okay, we always work from left to right as we do this. So the first exponent that we're going to come upon is going to be that 5 to the 2. So I'm going to have 2 times, what is 5 to the 2? 5 times 5 is 25. And then I'm going to rewrite everything else. Plus 4 times negative 3 to the third. Okay, so the thing we changed, I'm going to make a different color so it's really obvious what we did. We took the 5 to the 2 and we turned it into a 25. Everything else we kept the same for now. We're not done with exponents though because we have another set. So now we're going to have 2 times 25 plus 4 times, and we're going to have to change our negative 3 to the third. Okay, remembering that negative 3, negative 3, negative 3 is how you would do that. And when you do that, you're going to end up with a negative 27 because there's 3 sets of them, so we're going to have a negative. Ooh, wrong thing. Negative 27. So all we did there was take the negative 3 to the third and turn it into negative 27. All right, now we're done with exponents. Our next one is multiply, remembering that we multiply from left to right. So we have 2 times 25 first. Oh, why did I change that? 2 times 25 is going to be 50. Then we rewrite the rest, plus 4 times negative 27. Okay, now we still have a little more multiplying to do, right? Because we have 4 times negative 27, so we're going to say 50 plus, what's 4 times negative 27? It's negative 108. And then our final step, so we did our multiplication, we didn't have any division. Our last step is going to be addition. 50 plus negative 108 is going to be negative 58. And that's going to be our answer. So make sure as you go down each time, you're writing the stuff you haven't done yet. So the purple is the new item that we had solved from a previous step. 2 times 25 was 50. 2 times, or 5 to the 2 was 25, and so on. And then at the very bottom, after we've written everything else, we get to the final answer. All right, so I'll help you set up B, and then you're going to do B on your own. So it says 3a to the 2 plus 6 for a equals negative 5. So you're going to want to do it like this. 3, in parentheses, you're going to put negative 5 to the 2, because we took that a and we put the negative 5, plus 6. Okay, so go ahead and solve, or pause your video and solve this, and then I'll go over it. All right, so looking at our PEMDAS, we have no actions happening within the parentheses, so we don't need to worry about that. So exponents is going to be our first one. So we're going to have 3 times, oh, I guess I should have done that in purple. Hold on. Purple. 3 times, all right, -5 times -5 is going to give us a positive 25 plus 6. So the only thing we changed was that -5 to the 2, and we did -5 times -5, which is 25. All right, so we're done with exponents. Now we've got multiplication. 3 times 25 is going to give us 75. Okay, and then we still have plus 6. And then our last step is going to be, we don't have any division. Our last step is going to be addition. 75 plus 6 is going to give us 81. All right, nice work, everyone. That was lesson 4-2 on exponents and using the order of operations.